This week's installment has nothing to do with driving. So we're not taking the truck out, we're actually going to be doing some work on it. We're going to make something for it. Now before the Cape York trip, I had to make the spare wheel carrier. Now I didn't have enough time to go into depth and how I made it all and how it all worked, which was a bummer because a lot of you would have found that interesting. So anyway, it uses the rear winch to do it. But so subsequently, for those that know me well, the reason I started my YouTube channel and everything was because of the bike riding. So bike riding's probably the best thing for my mental health that I do. Struggled for many years, but bike riding was always my safe place, I suppose you could say. So I haven't ridden for probably a year now. The adventure bikes, got rid of most of them, or all of them actually, it's not most of them. So I haven't ridden, so I'm starting to feel a bit shitty again. Those demons are starting to come back and I need to get back out on a bike. So I've decided that I'm going to make something for the back of the truck so that I can get my enduro bike back out and at least get some kilometers under my head and feel a bit better. So today we are going to make a rack similar to that, but it's going to carry the bike. Originally I was going to make something off the back of this to carry the bike, but then the truck becomes too much overhang, so it actually becomes illegal. So we've got to, unfortunately, either run the bike or run the spare carrier. It's unusual that I'll be doing long trips with the bike anyway, so I probably won't need a spare. I always carry spare tube, so at worst I just got to change a tube. Alright, so a lot of the idea for this wheel carrier actually came off Unimog. He built one for his, and this is very similar to his. So you know, you got to give props. I pinched a lot of ideas off him. So these are the rods that hold it upright when it's in. My rear winch pulls it. I think Jai's got a little, you know, ATV winch that pulls his up, but my actual Runva pulls mine up. So there's 2 pins normally going there. Pull them out. Excuse me. Excuse me again. And then my winch lowers it down. So what can you see the problem here at the moment, right? So if I was to bolt the bike flat here, as we lower it down, the bike is just going to keep going on this angle and lay down flat. See, so we'll lower it right down, you can see. Alright, so if I was to do that, the bike would be laying flat pretty much like the tyre is, because the tyre's vertical. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically build a similar frame to this, but it's going to be in here, so it'll be a lot less dense. And then we're going to pivot from here and here, so effectively as the carrier comes down, this is going to come out like that and stay vertical with the ground as the carrier drops, if that makes sense, and then get to the point where the bike's on the ground and you can really get it off, and it should stay relatively vertical. Well, that's the plan anyway. So we'll get all this off, start attacking the system. Now we're trying to retain these so I don't have to swap them between which carrier, and we're going to copy all this. So basically this bottom bar here is all going to be copied off this one, and then from there up is what's going to be changed. All right, so anyway, let's give it a crack. So there we go, that's how easy it is to take the carrier off and start ready for the next one. All right, so here's my little mud map. So this arm here is what you would say would look like the tire carrier now, and then we're going to make another bracket like this that the bike sits on. So with all the these are all the measurements, how wide the bike is from the radiator shroud to the end of the handlebars. So the level, obviously my drawing's not 100%, but the level of the tires is going to be just below the tray height so that they don't interfere with the tail lights. So that means this bike is 1250 from the bottom of the front tire to the top of the camper, which is virtually spot on. So that handlebar will be level with the roof of the camper when it's all done and dusted. So this height here, that height there is basically going to be from the bottom of the bike to the top of the seat, and that's the bit that's going to go like that as this bit comes down, if that makes sense. So we'll cut all these out. I've made most of the brackets, like that's this piece. I've made all that stuff already just to save some time, but I'll go through the lengths, we'll tack it together, fit it to the truck. I'll build this bit will probably go on the truck first, and then I'll build just the uprights for the swing out bit, and I'll probably build this bit, put it on the truck, and then tack this bit to that frame on the truck to make sure that the heights are right. So first up, we're going to notch the box section to accept those, which are these pieces here. That's 16mm thick, and that's a 3/4 pin. So that will slide inside the box section. So I will show you how that all works. Okay, so the first piece of the puzzle is that has to slide in to there. So effectively it will look like that, but this will be halfway through the slot here. So the first part of the puzzle is to mark all that out, and then cut a slot in here to slide the plate into it. So let's get cracking. If you haven't got one of these, go and get one. They make things a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, anyway, get it. So, as a little trick, if you want to know something's in the middle, come across whatever this is 50 wide, come across 25, put your mark, and then measure this way 25, and if it meets up, you're spot on, because so many times rulers and shit are wrong, especially tape measures, because they've got the slop in the end. So yeah, so I will always measure from one side, then measure from the other side with the same thing, and to make sure that you're in the dead spot. Just a little trick, I suppose. So we're going to reset that plate into at 100mm. So the reason I'm doing it this way is because A, keeps everything centered, which, you know, I think looks better, and I'll end up with, by the time you notch it, you weld both sides, you end up with 400mm weld holding this plate into this bit of box section. So not in a million years, when the bike only weighs 100 kilos, is it gonna break out. So that's another thing for you. My spare tire weighs 160 odd kilos, that motorbike weighs 100 kilos. So I'm making the carrier out of the same shit as the tire carrier. So we're sort of a bit of an overkill in that situation. I'm gonna punch my mark a little bit down because the radius of the hole we're gonna do. Anyway, so generally, if I've got to drill more than, so effectively I got to drill a hole on this side, hole on this side, another one on this side, another one. So 4 holes, and they've got to be pretty bloody close to being very accurate. Otherwise, these plates aren't going to line up in the truck so well. So, you know, a little bit of twist here, a little bit of twist there, shit starts to get hard to use. So I generally won't mark all the holes. I'm lucky enough to have the mill. So I will mark one hole, and then I'll jig this sort of up in the mill so they can only go in one spot, and then I will just, you know, rinse and repeat. I can just go straight through, and I know that that hole is going to be in the exact same spot on all 4 sides effectively. So we'll go over to the mill and set it up. You don't have to do it this way. You could quite easily sit there with honestly a hand drill. It's a recipe for disaster and getting it, you know, wrong. If you had a drill press, you could basically do the same thing that I'm going to do in the mill, and you don't need $1 million drill press, just a small little drill press that you can clamp some things to that this goes up against. That's all you need, and you'll be surprised how inaccurate your marking can be. And especially, like, I shouldn't be using a texter. That's the first mistake, because that line's, you know, 1 millimeter thick. You should scribe everything. Anyway, we'll go set it up in the mill, we'll drill these holes, and then I'll explain how we're going to do the slots. Alright, so that's mine set up in the mill. So I've got a stopper here, stopper's there, so then all I have to do is slide the tube in, clamp it to this, make sure it's hard up against that, and then that hole will be in the same spot on all of them. So we'll drill a pilot hole, check it. The mill's strong enough, it would bore a 16mm hole straight through here with the drill bit, but we're not going to do that because it just fucks the drill bit. So we'll pilot hole them all and swap them out and 16mm drill them all. So now we want to cut this section out. Now in a perfect world I could have put them in the mill and then just bored them out with the mill, but that's a more set up, and I don't have a 16mm cutter, so I'm not doing it anyway. And this way you guys can see that you're more than capable of doing it yourself. So next job, just get the angle grinder, slot that all around, and then those plates should fit in. And before the Nazis go at me, I know there's no guard on my grinder, I never have used them, so deal with it. So there we go. That's how they're going to sit. They're going to sit even. All right. So there we go. That's how the first part of the puzzle goes. So we'll get them both even. I'll tack them, I'm not going to weld them fully, we'll tack them in, and then we'll go try it on the truck, and I'll explain the next stage from there. Now remember people, when you're tacking stuff, tack where you know you can cut it off in case you need to redo it. That's always a handy hit. Anyway, so that's tacked up enough, we can go and see if it fits up. We'll just do the other one now. There we go. Done. I will now, so now you can see, you can end up with that weld all the way along there, all the way along there, all the way along there. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So the next piece of the puzzle, there's the end we just made. So the next piece of the puzzle is joining it here. Now, if you do look at that, you think, I'm mad. Look at that. Perfect. No good. Especially guys doing it at home with not massive welders. You can weld on the top of that and make it look beautiful, but it's not really strong. So you really need to V it so that you've got to, which I'll show you because I'm going to do it. But just putting weld on top of this, being 6mm, it's not going to really penetrate. So you need to V all your joints, and especially this is going to carry a fair bit of weight. So yeah, V it so that you end up with a 6mm, basically a 6mm gap, not gap, but V. It's fucking pretty tough. So a 6mm V so that you can fill that with weld and know that you've penetrated right through the 6mm box section. And another thing, people, don't sit there and lineage all the welds back. If it's cosmetic and you know it's got to look fancy, fair enough, and it's non-structural, but when it's structural like something like this, don't grind the weld back. If you have to grind the weld back because you don't like the way it looks, then keep practicing before you do the job. I'm all for everyone to have a crack and to do it, but please do not sit there and grind your weld back flush, because yeah, you're just taking strength out of it. That's a whole new debate. People will say, well, if it penetrates properly or not. Well, guess what? You're all working at home, and I guarantee you, nearly all of you aren't getting the exact penetration you should. So I'd be leaving as much of the weld there as you can. Okay, peeps. See what I'm talking about now? We have a decent, needed something to point. See, now you've got a decent weld in there, a gap to fill. So that will make sure your penetration is a lot better and a lot stronger weld. All right, so we'll tack four spots, and then we'll do the other one. Lay them on top of each other, make sure they're spot on, and then so yeah, that's how the arm is supposed to look, and that's the other one all linished up, ready to go. So we'll tack these up, and then yeah, get into it. Alright, so both tacked, we'll sit the other one on top, make sure they somewhat resemble each other. Those look like they line up. Now people have been doing this for enough years that I'm fairly certain by eye that shit is pretty good, then I'm pretty happy. So yeah, there we go. All right, people. Now, once you know this section's right and you're happy with the way it's sitting on the truck, car, whatever you're building, weld it out. Now, I don't care how good you are, shit moves when you weld it. So if you've got, you know, we're going to one joint here, and admittedly this section's only going to have one more joint at the top, right? So it's not the end of the world, right? If you've got 4 or 5 joins and you got a little bit of gap where you're welding, shit moves. No matter how good a welder you are, how well prepared, whatever, unless you button it down on a big table like this, shit is gonna move. So, you know, you may make something that's got 5, 6, 7, even as little as 3 joins. Stuff can move. So when you know one section is done, weld it up, because then when you make the next section, if it has moved, you can make allowances for that. Because sometimes you can weld 5 sections together and it can then at the other end be 10, 15, 20 mil out, and then you've got to battle to fix that. Because unless you're getting everything laser cut, every gap is spot on, shit is going to move, no matter what precautions you take. So I generally, like, if I'm happy with these, I'll weld these out to this level, then I'll put the next section on. Yeah, anyway, that's just a tip from my point of view. That way, so they do need to roll in a little bit, but that's not the end of the world. We can account for that. So the next section is going to be a vertical that we need to add. Now that vertical has to be 300 mil from there. So that's the next equation. All right, so the next bit we need to work out is the vertical this way. We need 320 mil clearance this way to the tailgate, just the handlebars don't bang. So 320, and we're going to allow a little bit more, so it'll be, yeah, the handlebars are 300, so it will be a little bit more. Now this is a little bit backwards because I'm used to working from the other side, but for the purpose of the camera, this is what's going to happen. So that's 320, we're at 142 degrees, so we've got a 38 degree bend, so that there has to be 38 degrees to get the next vertical. That next vertical has to be 600 high for the hinge to work. So we can pull all that down now, notch this, so obviously 38 degrees, you notch half of it at this end, half of it on the piece that welds to it, and then that'll be the uprights finished. And then we'll put one brace across here, which is what the winch is going to connect to pull up and down. After I did the 2 uprights, I would weld it out. So there it is, all welded out. I put 2 cross members in it as well to hold it apart, which was going to need it in the truck anyway. So there's the frame of it welded out. Now we get to these pieces. So these are going to be, you would have seen them on my Instagram post. So that's the swing out bit. So this one is going to get welded to the top here, like so. Oops, sorry, like so, one on each side, and then that's what the thing's going to swing out on, and the other 2 there are going to get welded down here, and that's what'll lock the bike in when the stand's upright. So I'll probably weld these on. It's getting late in the day now. Probably tack these on, and then I'll call it a day, and we'll get back into it tomorrow. But yeah, so for those that have been trying to guess what the Instagram post was, there's the first lot of tabs, there's the second, and that's the third. Another day on the bike carrier. So I've just clamped it to the bench to give it a rough idea of what it's going to sit like on the truck. Obviously that last piece will be vertical, but that's the best we can do here. So the next bit is everybody. So this piece here is effectively going to be like that. So as we lower it, it's going to come out like that. The bike will be sitting on this piece. So we need to notch the ends of these to accept that steel bush. Yeah, so that's the next job. We'll notch the 2 of these, and then this bush will go down the bottom of here, and that's what will pin it and stop the bike bouncing around while we're driving along. So we're going to do the top the top hole first, and then we'll work on the bottom one. All right, so there's the first. So this sleeve was the one in there. Okay, so that's the first sleeve there. So this was just done on the mill with the hole saw. Another thing I thought I might point out, see these bolts that run through here? Okay, whenever you're doing any sort of suspension or something that's got a pivot or swing, when you order your bolt, make sure you get one where the shank is the full width of the sleeve. Because, you know, if you've got thread up here, it'll flog this out very, very quickly. Like Faircore, this is a bike carrier and goes up and down far out. If it's 100 times a year, it's really not going to worry it. But any sort of suspension component or something that gets used a lot, make sure that your shank of your bolt is longer than the sleeve and goes into the two side plates. So I put this bolt, see, you can see the shank is the full width, so therefore the bush will have a, you know, a nice thing to spin on, because the thread itself, you'll either flog the thread out very quickly and just gain movement, or you'll flog the sleeve out. So yeah, so just something to remember when you do it. And if you notice, we've offset the sleeve so that we get full travel. Well, we can tack this in and I'll explain it to you, but I've offset the sleeve so that we can get full travel. So before we tack this one in, I'm just going to drill the other hole up here for the other bush, and then it'll all start to make sense. So I suppose I should show you how we're drilling the hole. So same deal as when we did the others, just set up a couple of stops, hole saw in the mill. Now people, don't rush it, just set that on the slow speed and just slowly let it eat. The 9 times out of 10 these things stuff up, same with drill bits and everything, is because people are cooking them, they're going too fast. Don't be in a rush. So that's what we cut out of the other one. So we're going to do I was going to, in the last section I said I was going to drill this hole, but I thought this is all set up. We'll do the top bush of the other one, then we'll set all this up again. So at least we know all 4 sleeves are in the same spot. So yeah, so people, this, look, that's how slow that's spinning. And just let it eat it. Don't be in a rush. And A, the hole will be, as you can see over there, fits really nicely. And B, you're not going to flog out your hole saws. So yeah, take your time, you're in no rush. I've drilled the other one, so we're cleaning it up now to weld it in. Now as you notice here, I've cleaned everything off because we're going to TIG weld these in. 2 reasons. One, it's a lot neater, smaller weld. I don't have to lineage it back as much to make it all fit in here, because there's not a whole lot of room. And the second reason is dumbass here forgot to check, because it's now Sunday, forgot to check and we ran out of MIG gas yesterday. But I was always intending to TIG these in and MIG the rest of it, but what you see today will all have to be TIGged. But anyway, so the TIG welder, like the MIG will blow through this black blue shit easy. You don't need to lineage it all back. TIG welding, not so much. So I always lineage it. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I've die grinded a bit of a lip in here as well, back to where I said to get penetration, make sure you've got some sort of V. All right, now for those budding TIGger people that want a TIG weld, a useful tip, that's a standard cup, okay? Very good for, you've got to use that sort of style cup for alley, and most cheap machines come with 1 million of these. For steel, crap. Alley, you can't use much else, to be honest. So do yourselves a favor, just go and buy a kit like this. This one's from, I think SS Customs or SS Welding or something. They're not expensive, and these style cups, now that it's jammed in there, I can't get it out. Anyway, I'll get one out. So that style cup, as you can see, it's a lot bigger than that one. That gives so much more gas flow. You can run the tungsten a lot further out if you're struggling for, you know, to see the weld. So any sort of steel welding, alley, whatever, not alley, sorry, steel, stainless, mild, whatever. If you're going to try and start TIG welding, do yourself a favor. just get online, eBay or whatever, and buy yourself a couple of these. All right, you will be surprised how different and how much better your welding will become and how easier it is. So this style one is what they, as I said, they come with, and for aluminium you don't have much choice, you've got to use that. These will not weld aluminium very nice, but steel and stuff, definitely worth getting yourself a set. So there they are, both welded in. Now remember people, I said in the beginning about welding shit out when you get to a certain level. This is why these sleeves are welded in fully now. Because if that sleeve for whatever reason is tacked and it moves, when you weld it, it moves a little bit, or this shit doesn't line up because it's got to line up with something down here. So this comes back to patience. I know everybody wants to see the job looking complete and then tear it down and weld it, but just go through methodically. And yeah, so now, you know, I got to let all these cool, and don't quench things as much if you definitely don't need to, because that makes shit move as well. Like these you could quench, they're not going to go anywhere, but you know, this sort of shit, you quench it, you can cool it too quickly and the material contracts or bends and moves, and that causes a whole heap of dramas as well. So patience, people. We're making something, patience is the key, and you'll end up with a good product. Here we go. So those two uprights are in, and obviously you got to make sure when you shut them that they are parallel to that, which they are. If they're not, fix it now, don't keep going. And again, this is why I said weld stuff out as you're going along, because if that's out now, then it's going to throw the whole thing out. So you can see my ugly little weld here because we ran out of gas, so we're going to have to redo that, which is a bit of a piss off, but it is what it is. All right, so now we need to work out where this one is going to be. So basically all I want to do is put it as low down there as humanly possible. But yeah, and you can see there's a little gap through there. That's why we ran that crush tube past the edge of the box section, so that we don't have any binding on the tube. And we're going to do the same down here. I'm going to run it probably another mil further, so that when this swings back and hits that, the pin goes in without us having to wrestle that, you know, something's hitting and stopping the pinhole. So effectively that explains. So as you can imagine, as the whatever, this bit comes down, the bike will be in here, and this will go like that, and then as it goes up, it closes like that. Because remember, on the truck that bit's vertical, straight up and down, so then that'll go up, and then we put that pin in that and hold it. 2 holes of drill hole sword, that's how it's going to sit. Now if you notice, if I put a straight edge along there, which maybe I will, so I don't want to be wrestling with it trying to get the pin in. So if we straight edge that, you'll notice that the gap increases as we go along. Okay, so that tube is sitting slightly higher than that. So I want that tube there to bottom out on here. So we'll clamp it and then weld the tabs on, so that I don't have to fuck around trying to move this in and out to get the pin in. So that's why this one, it's actually a millimeter further offset than this one, so that when we swing it, we know that this piece here is going to bottom out, and that pin should go through first go every time. All right, so back in frame, it's a lot of in out, in out. So there's the other one. So my main concern was when we closed it, see the sleeve hits, so you can see a gap. Try and get the camera in the right spot. You can see a gap between, there we go. But you can see that the sleeve is hitting, there's a gap there, so that every time we push it, we're going to put the tabs to line up with that being bottomed out, and that way then every time it goes, we don't have to fuck around trying to line it up. So there we go. Now we are relying a lot on the fact that just the sheer weight of the bike is going to keep these somewhat vertical as it goes down. You might have to hold the handlebar or whatever just to help it, but you know, even the weight of the box section's doing a good enough job. So Let's just hope the bike does the same, otherwise we're back to the drawing board. All right, moment of truth. So that's how it's going to sit on the truck. I don't know if that all makes sense. So very similar to the spare tire. So obviously these are the keep it up. These lock this piece in, all right, if that makes sense. So to let it down, you just got to pull these pins out, remove that. We'll just put the whole pin back in the hole for shits and giggles, argument's sake. So then that one comes out. All right, that's on, pull that out, pull that one out. All right, now let's see if it's a little bit tight, so we might have to, so it doesn't take much, but you just got to pull that. So that's the theory. So as you can see, as the frame comes out, the bike's going to come down level and you can get it off. And then as we go up, I will have to, I'm trying to hold a camera, I would imagine I just support it with one hand just to stop it. See how you can see it rocking like that. And then eventually pops back into there. These will go up there, so you just keep winding the winch in until they fit. They go back in there. Like that, and then that holds it. So the base of the bike will be about here. That's where the belly of the bike will be. I'm making this, I know you see most bike things, they just hold the wheels. I'm going to make the belly of my bike sit on it, and some way of holding that there and then support the wheels. I'm not a huge fan of just letting them bounce around on the suspension all the time. So yeah, this will be slightly different to what I'm used to running. But yeah, that's basically how it's going to work, people. So that's sort of what we envisage when it's let down to take the bike off the stand. As I said, I'm making frames that'll support the wheels as well, but that's how we envisage. So this is the issue when we go to jack it up, this folds in. The issue is the bike's too much weight, see it's still closed to there, and then if I go a little bit more, that's where it wants to start. So we need a gas strut to help it open before it gets to that point. So here we have the frames to hold the wheels that I said I was going to put on earlier. Still have to work out a way of going to strap it down, but yeah, so that's all that held up. Now in the bit on the last video I said it wouldn't pull out, so we've put these gas struts on it, and that seems to have fixed the problem. So last job on the list is just put a few gussets here and another gusset here, just to give it a bit more strength. And yeah, so we'll lower it down, take the bike off, and I'll show you how the struts work. But that's sort of where it's going to sit, and paint it all up then. Okay, so here's mostly the finished product as such. So this is going to get attached, and then I'm going to put a rubber pad on here for the bike to sit on, just so it doesn't, you know, move and wear and shit. So each wheel drops in them. I've made them a little bit bigger to fit sort of bigger bikes if we need to. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but so this is the strut arrangement. So we worked out, well, I didn't work out, I guessed. So I just worked out a length that sort of was roughly there, and that, you know, just worked a couple of measurements out, and then got some struts. These are the strongest struts I could buy in that length. Through the guys, there's the guys in our factories, they import and sell the struts, so that made it easy. So they're 880 newtons each. They could probably be stronger to push the bike out, because as you'll see when I lower it, I just got the slightest pressure on the handlebar to get the bike to come down level. But it is what it is. It works pretty well. So there we go. That's pretty much how it all goes. So the last thing to do is we're just going to weld, sorry about all the rust, it's been raining this week, some little gussets in here and here, just add a bit more strength. I'll put some little stoppers, I don't know if they're going to show up here, the bottom out on here, so that the bike goes down to the same point every time, just to make, because otherwise, you know, the winch will free spool or run on its brake for, you know, 100 mil, and it's either the bike's too low or too high, you can't get it off. So we just welded those little stoppers on there, and yeah, that's how it works. Okay people, one last look. So gussets are in, should be strong enough. Quite a few people have asked how the mechanism works. So normally the cable's going to pull here. I've got it pulling down there to sort of duplicate the weight of the bike by pulling the frame up that way, but this will give you an idea of how the struts and everything work. So when it's up, obviously this, as explained before, that one goes back in there with a pin, and then the bigger pins just go through there and they hold it upright. So there's a pin on both sides plus the 2 pins there. For those that asked about the spare tire, well, this whole carrier uses these same rods go for the spare tire, and it's effectively pull those 2 pins out, this one comes off and the spare tire goes on. Unfortunately, you know, this is all going to weigh some, so it'll be it's not going to be that easy to swap over. Use the forklift, I guess. But yeah, so there we go. Time to tear it down and paint it all black. All right people, the last video of it. So she's all painted. Probably looks a little bit different outside than inside the workshop. So it's all black. Actually looks nice. You can see we've put a rubber mat down there. Everything's black. The last time you'll see it. And for those interested, that's a 300 EC300 Gas Gas. It's one of only 200 worldwide. So it's a factory replica from the guy that won the world championship in 2010. So yeah, there's only 200 of these, and that's when 2-strokes were real 2-strokes, had carburetors, pre-mixed the oil, and yeah, before Gas Gas turned to shit and went to KTM. All right, last time, let's go. There we go. That's how it sits on the truck. I probably could have made it all a little bit further inboard, but it's no big deal. So there we go people, the bike rack.